Okay, so it has been a second since I've done a wrap up, so I'm a little bit out of step with it, but I am finally going to do basically my January, February, March wrap up, all of the books that I've read this year, including one little straggler in April since I did finish it and it's kind of fresh on my mind, so I want to talk to you guys about it. But I've been having a wonderful reading year. I am on top of my goals and I'm pretty proud of myself. There was a lull and that's totally fine. I was meant to do a video on reading slumps. I don't know if you guys still could want that. Could want it. But yeah, I was meant to do a video on reading slumps and how to get out of it and that it's okay and just different tips and tricks and advice that I have, particularly about that. We are not always meant to have a book in front of us. We're not always meant to be consuming, audiobooks, etc., etc. So if you guys still want that video, definitely let me know and I'll be happy to make it. I'm trying to get back into the groove, Madonna style, get into the groove, get it? Okay, sorry. But yeah, I'm trying to get back into the groove of just kind of having a routine and whatnot. I think it is very formidable, the amount of books that I have read. I do have my phone here that I always pull out. I have Fable and I love Fable. It is just such a wonder. It's like seriously one of my favorite apps because of how it motivates you to read and motivates you to keep track of your goals and whatnot. I have been consistently reading and listening to audiobooks since I think January 6, 2025. So I have been on a massive kick, a massive streak. I have not missed a day. That's what a streak means. And even if it's just a page, it still counts. You know what I mean? So it's like just to read a little something, a little paragraph here, 2 pages, whatever it might be. Maybe it might be 50 pages. I still count it as a win. So far for the year, I do have to make an amendment and I should quickly do that right now. It says I've finished 30 books for the year so far. And I know that that is not, well, actually, yes, I have actually. Because sometimes on Fable, you're able to kind of adjust the book status yourself. So sometimes I feel like I do jump the gun a little bit. It's like, yeah, I know I'm gonna finish that book today. So I quickly mark it as read when I finished it at a different time, which is not always, as accurate, but sometimes it does come about like that just to make sure that I do take care of it. But so far for the year, according to Fable here, okay, let me quickly actually hit record so you guys can kind of see that. Okay, so you guys should be able to see my screen. For the book club, a little plug as well. It's just a whimsical book club for wanderers. I always have the hardest time with these words. Exploring cozy, atmospheric, and dreamy reads. Seasonal quest awaits. I don't know why I'm so nerdy. Okay, so as you guys can see, my reader summary says here that it says personal storyteller. I guess this is what the AI machine has spit out for me. You collect transformative narratives about love and loss. Your stories explore the complexities of relationships, taking a deeper look at love. I was like, oh, I like that. So far for the year, we've tackled 30 books. It's 103 days as far as our streak, and the average rating is 4 stars. I haven't found a million 5-star books out of the 30 that I have consumed this year, which is okay. I think I've had a good time with the books. I've sat with them and have enjoyed the entertainment aspect of it. I have picked up a lot of romance earlier this year because I told you guys that I had like a little bit of a lull and a little bit of a hard time at the beginning of February all the way till up to this day. But I'm getting my groove back, as he said. I'm getting back to feeling better and whatnot. So I was easily taking on a lot of romance and just fluff, smutty, entertaining books. Some of them are, they're just for fun. They're not really anything that will like nourish the mind. I guess you could say it kind of nourishes the soul if you are escaping into this book. Any book, it doesn't have to be a high intellectual piece of literature for you to say that it's a good book. Because I enjoyed a lot of the silly, entertaining reads that I did go through. Now, the reading goals, I have a reading goal of 60 books. Maybe I might up it up by 5 if I do reach the 60 before, summer ends or before fall begins. Maybe I'll increase it by 5, and then if I do reach that 5, then I'll increase it to an extra 5 and not take on anything too serious. It says it's about 18,000 pages for the year. which is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And then right here, I wish I could zoom in, but it doesn't allow me to. For January, it looks like I read about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 books for January. And then February, you can just see it just slowed down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 books for February. That's still pretty great. And then March, I was like, okay. Yeah, things are not over. Life is good. Life is good. Let's get back into it. So for March, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 books in March. Yeah, just like, focusing and, honing in on that and just having like tunnel vision on my reads. And then for April's actually almost over, and I guess that kind of proves to how busy March was, that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't read. Okay, let me just slow down a little bit. So April, I've only tackled one book, and then I did start the Say You'll Remember Me book by Abby Jimenez. But so far it's a pretty great reading year. And yeah, you can just see here, I'm just scrolling on down. Romance, it says about 14 romance books, 6 literary fiction books. I wish I could click on it. Fable needs to do a better job at this, but I wish I could click on it so I could tell you which ones are which, as far as like the classification. And then it says 4 classics, 4 fiction books, and 2 sci-fi books. So cool. And then, as you can see, I'm a pretty generous rater, so 4 stars as the average rating for the year. And then my recurring authors for the year, Emily Henry, she's gonna get another one because of the new book that's actually coming out tomorrow, Tuesday. Today is Monday, the day after Easter. I hope you guys had a great Easter. I had a lovely Easter. And then I also got 3 books done by Lauren Asher. It was a very popular series that I just like, it was just good fun. It was good fun. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, and I can totally understand that a lot of the stuff has to be skipped over if you are not having your eyes, if you don't want your eyes to be all up in that kind of smuttiness and spice and whatnot. But it was a fun book, and it definitely kept me entertained, and the storyline was so much fun. Okay, so oh my goodness, I have this like steaming piping hot cup of, oh my god, it's so hot. Do you see this? Putting my hand over for steam. Maybe you could over my face, since I'm maybe over the hair. Can you guys see that? Okay, I'm gonna give it up. It's very hot. It's very, very hot. It is Fireside Vanilla Spice. Oh my goodness, it's divine. It is so perfect. So I believe it's cinnamon, cardamom. There's like a vanilla flavoring in there. Ginger, you can totally smell the ginger. There's licorice. Oh, it's perfect. It's very tasty. It's from Celestial, one of my favorite brands. The only thing that I'm ever so concerned about with Celestial teas is the actual tea bag. I hear that there's a little bit of like a toxicity, but we can only do our very best, right? But let's go ahead and get started with the books. I'm gonna try to fly through it because a lot of them, like I have to say almost a third, not really a third, but a good chunk of them were Christmas books at the beginning of January. I just wanted to, keep up with that because we continue celebrating Christmas for us, and in my household, and a lot of Christians do, they continue celebrating Christmas long after December 25th. So I was still in the Christmas spirit and whatnot. So let's see here if I can recall. I'll tell you guys if it's like pass or not. Let's start with some of the Christmas books. Oh yes, the first Christmas book of the book club, we did The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. That was so much fun. You guys, I read it after the fact. I'm so bad about that. I read it after the fact, meaning after the book club, and oh my gosh, it was just so much fun. It had an Agatha Christie-esque feeling to it where these two main characters, guy and girl, they are invited to this kind of spooky, isolated mansion in the middle of nowhere where a crime happens, and they are putting their prowess, in a sense, their skills together to figure out exactly who done it. And of course, a burgeoning like romance happens. I thought the story was extremely entertaining. It had my attention the entire time. It wasn't, what I find really difficult with some of the Agatha Christie books is that she has so many different characters that you have to write it down and you have to be able to like keep track of it, whether it's, And Then There Were None, Murder on the Orient Express. I can imagine Death on the Nile, which I have not read. I haven't finished And Then There Were None either, so don't spoil it for me. I'm hoping that kind of video comes out hopefully in the end of May. Yeah, this particular book, even though it did have quite a few characters, you know, like these mysterious characters all kind of gathered together in this one gorgeous old ancient castle to figure out who done it kind of thing, I was able to track everybody pretty much. And it was just such a good time, and it was a little spooky and whatnot. I loved the chemistry of the two characters. It was just so much fun. It was just so much fun. And I thought it was like a very satisfying end. And that was a read that I started in December of 2024 and ended it in, the bulk of it was ended in January 2025. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I gave that book, let's see. It was such a good book. It really was. And I loved that cover. The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter. Yeah, it was really cute. So there's minimal spice in there. I love the dialogue, really funny. I gave that book 4.5 stars. I recommend it. Okay, so the next book that I have, super fast because again, we're not in this season and we're not, you know, trying to linger on there. Okay, the next book that I did end up doing, another kind of holiday book. It was so cute. It was cute. Simple, non-problematic. It was Love You a Lotka. Let's see what I said about this one. It was about, I believe I gave it 3.5 stars. Yeah, it was so much fun. I thought it was like quite genuine. It gave there was a lot of authenticity in there. And yeah, I just thought it was a simple little read. Very quick, no spice here. Very PG. And basically the story had to deal with this girl who was planning out a Hanukkah festival. And I think she had the guy come help her and whatnot, and his parents were not very, like, her parents were not very nice. Yeah, his parents were very warm and welcoming and whatnot. It was just a good time to pass the season, and it was different too because it's not all, you know, like it wasn't just like Christmas books that I was consuming around that time. The White Christmas Inn, another one. All of these people came to this inn. Oh my god, I'm so happy. It was so good. I would actually reread that at the end of this year. It was like super Hallmark, just classic, predictable story, but just so much fun. All of these people came to this inn to celebrate the holidays and to also celebrate wedding. Somebody gets stood up and left at the altar, and they're just not showing up. This person, they end up kind of reconnecting with an old friend that, you know, lived in the area. He's still here helping out his people with the farm. Yeah, so these two people reconnected, and then there are like new relationships being formed, and everybody is just so much fun in this inn. People are sleeping out on the couch because the inn is fully booked, and it's like a white Christmas, and there are kids involved, and it's just a good old time. So much fun. I would totally reread this one. I thought it was like just a perfect happy book. It's a mood lifter, honestly. So The White Christmas Inn by Colleen Wright. That one I gave 4 stars. The next one was not my favorite. Royal Holiday by Jasmine Guillory. I don't know if it was because the couple were a little bit older, but basically this woman, she joins her daughter who's kind of is in her 20s and has this kind of like fashion type of artsy job. She goes over to England to, I don't know, take care of something with the queen. She's like designing something for the queen or whatnot, and she's working with the palace, and the mom is joining her, and she eventually kind of links up with one of the staff who's working at, I don't know, Buckingham Palace. I don't know. Anyway, she's like links up with him, and they, you know, they fall into step with each other, and I just didn't care for the romance. I just didn't care. I was disinterested, not connected, and I was like, oh, it's just plain. It was very simple. So I ended up giving that one 2.25 stars. Oh, it was just, I didn't care for it. It was just not as fun as the other stories. And I don't even know if it's because if it's an older couple. I watch a lot of like movies that deal with, you know, varying ages. Of course, it's nicer to see something that's a little closer to home around my age group, but I just thought it was like, whatever. Like this one, for example, there's somebody here who's much older, but it's like, it just worked. So this guy, Richard Paul Evans, 5-star book, A Christmas Memory. That one was so much fun. Please pick it up. It was just so good. Basically what happens is that this guy, it's pretty, I was like, when I was reading it, I was like, oh my god, is this about you, Richard? Like the author? So it says here, in 1967, for young Richard, it's a time of heartbreak and turmoil. Over the span of a few months, his brother Mark is killed in the war of Vietnam, the Vietnam War, what am I saying? His father then loses his job and moves the family from California to his grandmother's abandoned home in Utah. And oh my gosh, the way that Richard Paul Evans kind of wrote it out, you just tell that it's like, we have like a buzzing yellow light, and just like, I don't know, it just feels like like the sunshine of California just completely dimmed to this kind of like, I don't know, this metallic gray sad ambiance of Utah. Not saying that that's what Utah is. I know that Utah is just a gorgeous piece of country. It's a gorgeous land, you know, with all the mountains and the lakes and all of the different things that you can do there. But it just felt like the way that Richard Paul Evans wrote it, it was like, oh man, things are low now. And you know what happens? The mother, she kind of gets into a bout of depression as well. And it's just like, you just tell the whole mood is down. Richard then eventually, he gets bullied at school. The teachers are not the best. And eventually he just kind of meets up with this older man, kind of like a grandpa. And Richard just starts to learn different things like about books and cooking and just about love and patience and all of these kind of things that this older mentor is teaching him. Basically his neighbor. And his neighbor knew, you know, the grandma who lived across the street and whatnot. And he has stories to tell. And it was just such a heartwarming book. I was like, I cried actually. I actually did cry. It was just so beautiful. Perfect for December, January, when you want a little something, a little bit more emotional, heart-tugging, you know, like pulls on your heartstrings and whatnot. So that one was fantastic. I gave it 5 stars. I think that might have been my first 5-star actually of the new year. No, maybe not. Never mind. My first 5-star read was The Wild Robot. Oh man, I had a good time with that one. This one is a children's story, kind of young age, I would say. It's like children's fiction. This one, I would say you have to be like 8 years old or up to read it, but it was such a good time. And this is why I was able to actually get through a lot of books, is because a lot of them were quite short, very quick stories, very easy to read in a few hours or at least in one day. So, you know, that's how I was able to rack up 30 books read for the year. So yeah, this particular one, The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. I love that name. It just sounds like Peter Rabbit. It basically is about this robot that washes up on a deserted island. And what happens is that it is very like, it actually is, it's really kind of graphic. I'm gonna be honest with you. For a children's book, I thought it was a little bit like, oh, you guys are touching on a lot of adult themes, so maybe you might want to pre-screen this before you read it to your children or whatnot. But I thought it was just a perfect little book, and I can't wait to see the movie. I know that there was one that came out last year in 2024, but yeah, this robot washes up ashore deserted island, and the robot ends up killing I can't say it, you know, deleting. Stupid. I can't stand it. Yeah, the robot ends up deleting this like bird's family. Like it crushes the bird's family. And when the bird hatches, pretty much, it kind of imprints on the robot and it's like, mama, you know, like you're my mom now. And this robot is like, wow, you know, I'm gonna have to take care of this bird. So it just kind of follows this whole story. A bird just passed by. It just kind of follows this whole story of this robot interacting with all of these wild animals and communicating with these animals and finding a family life and just like a routine and a rotation with these different animals. And there's so many fun characters on the island, from snakes to hedgehogs to frogs to, you know, whatever bears and whatnot. It gets very intense. It's very thrilling, but it's very warm and heartfelt and a really well written story. Extremely memorable, and I just had so much fun with it. The end was a little bit of a cliffhanger-y. Like, it was a little bit cliffhanger-like. And I feel like you have to go and get the second book to continue it on. It's like, I was really actually, like, I was absolutely gutted and devastated. You can see, like, the growth of the little fledgling little bird and whatnot, and how he grew and matured and whatnot. So it's just like a whole story of somebody's life, this relationship between this robot and this bird and all the other creatures and animals on the island. It was really a fun time, and I gave that one 5 stars. Ooh, okay, next book I dabbled in was so much fun. I was like, oh my gosh, I really like fantasy. I'm gonna say it. I didn't think I was a fantasy girl, but every time that I take my time with a fantasy book and actually see it through, I'm like, wow, that was just so fun. Like, you know, like, wow. This is just so much fun. So I read this book. It was so good. Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. It was just so sweet. Like, just from the dialogue, extremely witty, entertaining, just funny, whimsical. There's a lot of magic in there. And you can just see the, like, you know, cue the harp kind of thing. It's like, this is just so beautiful. It was a beautifully written book. And I'm gonna ask, you know, my phone here to help me out a little, so I'm gonna be looking through the summary. But it was just so good. It was like Regency England, and this girl, she was what was her name? Theodora, I think. Yeah, Theodora Eddings. She was born basically with half a soul, and she was cursed by this fairy. This, what the kids say, fae. When I first heard the word fae, I was like, what is that? Like, is that iron? Like, it just reminded me of like iron, like IRON. And I was like, why don't people just say fairy? Like,
I do believe in fairies.
I've never heard like Tinkerbell described as a fae. You know what I mean? But maybe fae or fairies, are they supposed to be a little scarier? But OMG. So she's basically cursed by the fairy, and she and she basically has like half a soul. So this girl's mom, Theodora, she's trying to have her get married. She's like super like, okay, you need to get married. The way that Theodora is, because of this half a soul, she's like has no fear, is lacking in the department of embarrassment and like, you know, being embarrassed and whatnot. So she's just a very confident and fun and like out there type of girl. And of course, you know, she teams up with this very devilishly ill-mannered, handsome guy to basically just try to correct this half a soul situation that she has going on. It was just such a fun read, and I also love this kind of friendship and almost sister, I don't remember if that was her sister, but the sisterhood relationship that she had with this other girl in the book. She's just like her I want to say her champion, her rock star, her hype girl, just such a good friend, like such a good friend in there. So like there's a bunch of like sweet moments in there. No spice, totally chill. But yeah, it's a super whimsical fantasy book that I think you guys would like, and I kind of classify it under Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek. Just another good, wholesome, fun read. And you know, there was this one story that I thought started a little bit like a little slow. I still haven't finished it, but I was like, I gave it a chance, and I was like, wow, this is amazing, but my hold ran out. It was A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. So much fun. I haven't finished it yet, but we'll see how that all goes. Oh wow, this whole time I've been recording my my screen for like 30 minutes. That's annoying. Okay, next, I ended up getting Funny Story. Love this little spine here, guys. So cute. I reread Funny Story. Another wonderful read. I don't know if I rated like 4.5 stars, but definitely one of my favorite Emily Henry stories. Again, this is about this girl and guy who are forced to live together in a sense because their partners broke up with them, and they eventually just like lived together and they fell in love, and it's just so sweet and saccharine, and I love it. It was just, it's one of my faves. You know, I really enjoyed it. Oh, yeah, so Funny Story, I think I rated that 5 stars. Okay, and then, oh yeah, this book got me a little frustrated, only because I didn't understand what was going on until I understood what was going on. Read it. I think it was really fun. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. I rated it 4 stars. There is animal abuse in there. Death, a little bit of ableism, a little violence, okay, as far as your content warnings. It's definitely, because as I said, I didn't understand what was going on. It's very disorienting. It's a little bit confusing. I don't even want to spoil it all that much. I was like, when I was reading, I was like, what's wrong with this character? Like, what is the matter with this particular character? They feel so distant, so like emotionally vacant. They are just not there. And we find out we kind of find out exactly what happens later on. So basically, there's this kid named Christopher, and yeah, it's just such an unusual novel. I loved it. I was like, wow, this is really good, and super fast too. One that you can read in a matter of hours. Another short read. Maybe I should do a video on short books that can be read in within an hour, something like, not an hour, within a day. Yeah, so we kind of have like somewhat of an autistic savant, somebody who's very much so, I believe, on the spectrum. Christopher, he basically, the story follows how he investigates the death of this like neighborhood dog, and he has divorced parents, right? And like, how do I explain this? Because it's so odd. It is so odd. So we're following this kid who is pretty much on the spectrum. He finds out that the neighborhood dog is offed, and he's looking into it. He's like, what happened here, you know? And he's not letting it go because of the nature of the way he is. And is his family involved? Did he end up doing it? So it's a little twisty, turvy, lots of lots of spins, and you go all the way from his neighborhood to almost a place completely across town. It's just so interesting. Also, you follow how his parents' relationship has somewhat crumbled and how they deal with Christopher as well. But he's just so straightforward, so matter of fact, so unflinching in the way that he's investigating this thing. Like, he's not gonna let it go. And yeah, you guys should totally read it. I had a good old time with it. I want to reread it because, again, I didn't understand what was going on when I first picked it up. And now that I do, I think I'll be able to grasp a few more things out of it. Oh man, this book. Keep Me by Sarah Kate. Insane, crazy book. Super spicy. I don't recommend it. I'm gonna say it right there. Insane. I flew through it because it was just, I don't know, it was entertaining to a certain degree, but I was like, this is really bad. This girl. I just started laughing. This girl. Yeah. What about her? Okay. Okay. So I'm just gonna read to you guys the summary here because I can't review this book. It's just so nonsensical and just like it's crazy. It's just nuts. Like, don't read this book, okay? But it says here, their marriage of convenience is anything but. It is like this guy is like super abusive. The main lead guy, Killian or something like that, Barclay. Yeah, he's like super abusive, and I'm talking about verbally abusive to this girl. I'm like, who would find this like fun? Like, who would want this in real life? This is crazy. So this guy, Killian, is to be left the hell alone. He had enough heartache to last a lifetime, and he has no more need for love, earning him the reputation of a broody Scot, and eventually turning his family ancestral home into a den of iniquity. Think of like Marquis de Sade, like hedonistic type of thing here. Yeah, it's a den. I love that they use den. Think of like hell. Think of hell. It doesn't take long for tales of his raunchy house parties to reach the rest of his family, though inspiring them to hatch a plan to shake Killian out of his routine. The New Yorker Sylvie Devereaux is tough as nails. As the daughter of famous yet neglectful parents, she's grown a hard shell and keeps everyone at arm's length. So, when she sneaks into Barclay Manor during a trip to Scotland, with her boyfriend, by the way, to get a glimpse of a famous heirloom, she doesn't anticipate facing off against the brutish, maddening Highlander who lives there. I feel like this is kind of like what 50 Shades of Grey is kind of like. I don't know if that's, if that's true, because I've never seen 50 Shades or read it or anything like that. I used to have the books actually, but I got rid of them because I was like, I don't think I'm gonna read this. I was like, this might be a waste of my time. And I didn't even know. I always go into these kind of things like completely, like without any reservations, no like background at all. And I was like, what is this? Like, and I had to finish it. This is what I did. I did finish because it was just like, I was like, how did it end? Some things I'm like, okay, it's not worth my time, but I guess this one was worth my time, but not really. Don't read this one. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Okay. So yeah. So she kind of runs into this guy, the maddening Scottish brute, and she certainly didn't expect to ever see the bastard again. Yet, just weeks later, she's approached by Killian's family with a proposal. Move to Scotland and marry Killian to improve his playboy reputation. And after 1 year, she'll walk away with $10 million, even knowing that their plan is more deceptive than he realizes. And it kind of gave off a bit of that kind of like Stockholm Syndrome, a little bit of Beauty and the Beast vibes, for sure, I have to say. But as she grows closer to Killian and the end of their year together, she has to decide, is the love of a good man with a dark soul worth keeping, or is she willing to break Killian's heart now that it's well and truly hers? I don't recommend this one. I don't recommend it. Oh yeah. I must have been looking for some type of piece. I don't know where it is. I thought I knew where it was. It's not in my library section. Anyway, I don't know where that book is, but it's fine. So yeah, the beginning of February, it just goes to show you what was going on in my life. I read Holy Huga. I feel like so bad. I don't know if I'm saying it right anymore. Huga. Somebody help me. Creating a place for people to gather and the gospel to grow. Holy Huga. Creating a place for people to gather and the gospel to grow by Jamie Erickson. Super fun book. It kind of felt like, honestly, like flipping through a magazine, getting different craft ideas, getting ideas for hosting, and just making your home as beautiful as possible, but with a Christian edge, because it's talking about, adding the gospel pieces in there. And, I just thought this book was really good. Like, honestly, lots of good ideas in there, and feels like yesteryear. You kind of wish that almost everybody could implement a kind of like a bit of a lifestyle like that, where they care so much about who comes into their home, how their home is presented, the meaning of certain things, sentimentality, and being very Schmaltz-like in nature. Yeah, it's like a big old therapy type of session with this book, and it was just so beautiful. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. And then I went into I'm Your Huckleberry by Val Kilmer. I thought the book was just okay. Nothing too, wow, this is so entertaining. Nothing too, that stands out for me, I suppose. It was mid. So I would give that one 3 stars or so, 3.5 stars. Yeah, I'm Your Huckleberry by Val Kilmer. It was just an easy read, and I felt like it was a little bit, and Val Kilmer just passed away, as you guys might know. But yeah, it felt so Hollywood. It felt so like, I'm so much cooler than everybody thinks that I am. Well, you're not, I guess. Who cares? Who cares so much that I picked it up because I was just curious, what an interesting title. And, I like his movies and whatnot, but it was just okay. I wouldn't particularly recommend, but I think his movies are fantastic. I just felt like it came across as a little pompousy, a little bit like look at me and Brentwood and Pasadena, and I'm a Maui. That's how much I don't know. Maui is freaking in Hawaii. I'm a Malibu person, Palisades. They're talking about all these kind of things. It's so interesting because it's a lot of those kind of cities have been in the news recently because of the recent LA fires and whatnot, but I don't know, something about it felt so detached. I couldn't relate, you know what I mean? So I'm not caring too much. The next book on the docket here was All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. You know something? I really didn't like that they kind of changed the character. Justice something, I forgot his name, but the boy who plays the lead in the movie, Justice Smith, I think he was Pikachu. He was in Detective Pikachu or whatever, and he's also in Jurassic World. He does not look like the character in the book, so they put a black kid, on the net. It's just hard, I guess, because the book cover has Dakota Fanning's sister, Elle Fanning. Sorry to say it like that. She is her own person in her own right. She's done a lot of cool movies. Love her. Elle Fanning and Justice Smith are on the cover of the book, but when you read the book, Justice Smith is clearly not the person that was written on the page. Does that make sense? So it was tripping me up a bit. I'm sure it's a great movie and it's very entertaining. I believe it's on Netflix, and I'm gonna check it out because I read the book or whatnot. But I was like, I can't see anybody but Justice, even though they keep writing this character as somebody else completely different, right? Yeah, so this guy, he's super fascinated by death. Theodore Finch, aka the main guy. And yeah, so yeah, it's a hard book. The trigger warnings, there's a few sensitive things in here, extremely sensitive all the way to the very end. It's completely unsatisfactory. I was very upset actually at the end. I wish it wasn't this way. It seems like this main character might have a form of schizophrenia or mental health issues. So things go as good as you think they might go. It is really interesting. There's a little romance in there as well with the neighborhood classmate. They have all of these substantive conversations about life and love and death and all of these things, their home life and things like that. And it just feels very suburban neighborhood, trying to break out a little bit. People have, wishes and dreams and things like that. And the Elle Fanning character, Violet, she has a very sad, and I won't say sordid. Sordid sounds so salacious. But she has a very sad and depressing background as well, with a family member and what could have happened there. So I don't want to spoil it too much for you guys, but I say read it if you're not too sensitive to depression and, mental health issues and things like that. But it was a good read. I just was a little despondent and low after reading it, but I think it was very, very good. Well done. Very well done. Okay, I don't know what happened. My camera just Yeah, okay. But anyway, so I was saying that they're very thick books. Lauren Asher kept me company over the last couple months with her crazy, just pure fun story of these brothers who have to jump through hoops and complete a lot of tasks to be able to get their inheritance. So in this set of books, we have one called The Fine Print, which is the first one. Terms and Conditions is a second. And then Final Offer is a third, which is extremely hard to find actually via Libby. I was able to get like the physical book in my library, but by the time that it came, I was like, I'm already done with this. It was just so much fun. I ate it up so quickly. And I do believe that the second book was my favorite. I just did not like the audiobook narrator. A lot of people were saying this and I was like, I saw that as soon as I heard this woman in my ear, I was like, oh, this is garbage. Like, who is this person? They pretty much in nothing. I'm not trying to say like, oh my gosh, old people are terrible. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying if you're going to put somebody, like cast them correctly, they have a 24-year-old character in this book, Terms and Conditions, and then they practically put a much older grandma-like auntie type of old woman character to voice her. I was like, what is going on?
I mean, are there any other young women in the house?
How young?
Younger than you.
This is so like, this is a little disassociating. It doesn't match. So yeah, insane. So basically these brothers, they are the Kane brothers. They were left instructions by their granddad, who basically like created a Disneyland in in their universe and whatnot. It's called Dreamland. It's really cute actually. And the granddad passed away and he left them instructions as to how to get their inheritance. One of them has to sell a house and kind of become sober and maybe fall in love with a woman. The other one has to get married and has to have a child to be able to become the CEO. The other one has to stay at the at basically the Orlando Dreamland facilities and to kind of like manage everything. And so they have like a lot of specific sets of requests that were done by the grandfather that were, I don't know if I said that right. They have a lot of specific demands that are from the grandfather to be able to get their billions and billions of dollars, right? And I was like, wow, why can't that happen to me? Not a forced marriage, of course, but I was like, damn, that's a lot of money. Whew. Yeah, I can imagine. It was very luxe, very opulent, very decadent, and just a lot of fun. I'm talking about like jets and just like vacations and almost anything at the drop of a dime, a hat. Every whim is fulfilled. I don't know. These idioms, these American idioms are never the ones that I know. But yeah, so much fun. And we're in and out of all of these different stories with the brothers. They interact with each other in every single book. And the ladies are a lot of fun as far as the brothers' partners. And yeah, it's just a good time. I loved it. I really did love every last one of them. And it just kept me completely entertained. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on next? So yeah, I suggest it. I do recommend that one, but just be forewarned that there's a little bit of spiciness and some like trickled in there. If you're not a fan of that, then avoid it at all costs. Oh, Beartown by Frederick Bachman. That was one that I had been anticipating for years because I've heard nothing but good things about Beartown by Frederick Bachman. This is the Agatha Christie effect, as I say, with a lot of characters. Beartown had a lot of different characters that was kind of a little hard to track. At a certain point, I was a little disassociated with it. I was like out of my head with it. I was just not feeling it. And then it picked up towards the end, and I think I gave it 3.75 stars. 3.75 stars, and I think it's a series as well, so I have to continue it. Oh man, something crazy happens in this little hockey snow town where people basically are on the side of their superstar athlete. So an SA happens, if you don't know what that is, where this boy does something to this girl that completely unwarranted, completely wrong. And people are like, they kind of did the she's asking for it, or you're just trying to ruin our town kind of thing, So yeah, this is what the story is about. It kind of follows all of these different people's lives in this town, from the parents to the children to, other auxiliary characters and whatnot. So it's just bathed in ice. It's extremely cold. You just feel the atmosphere every single page that you turn. You just feel the super, super freezing cold. That's exactly what I wanted during these colder months of the year. And it was just, it's a hard book to come to your impressed with it. And I think the ending was somewhat satisfactory a little bit. Like it left me a little bit like, yeah, it left me a little bit like, I don't know, the feeling. I was like, huh, okay, that's what you get, kind of thing. I don't know. It's crazy. But it was a fun read. Fun is not maybe the right word, but it was definitely a heartbreaking read. And it was beautiful. A little dark. I feel like when I was reading it was like, it's very evocative, you know? It's like, oh, wow, this is really intense. So the next one that I can't stop talking about, it's a classic. I would presume it's a classic by John Steinbeck is, I'm so sorry. Like I should have been holding up my books, but man, I have all these books here. I'm like just talking. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. This is like a newer copy that I was getting from my brother, but I don't think he's gonna be able to get this, so it might just be here for him later on. And then I have this one here by my sister. She had lent me this a while ago. John Steinbeck, Of Mice and Men. Yeah, I can see what this is all about now. I know exactly what this is about. Guys, you can read this like, again, in an afternoon. So fast. So good. We're following these two guys. I finally know the references about the rabbit.
I'm George. You'll be Lenny. You want me to tell you about the rabbit?
Yeah, so we're following these two guys, George and Lenny, and how they pretty much are like kind of like migrant workers. They go from place to place. And yeah, it's extremely the friendship is just so odd. When I was reading it, I was like, why exactly is George shacked up with Lenny? Exactly. Like it makes no sense. Lenny is a little bit slower. You can tell that he has some type of intellectual disability or something, and George is, you know, more with it or whatnot. And these two are just kind of like traveling through, I think it's California during the Great Depression, and they're just looking for work. It's kind of like, I work so I can feed myself. I work so that I can try to get to the American dream, so that I can maybe possibly own a few acres of land and be my own boss one day, and be able to say that I made it, and you know, I've gotten to nirvana and to the happy place or whatnot. You know, I found the beach, you know, Alex Garland style. But yeah, so they, you know, they're always commuting, they're always hiking and whatnot, and they're just walking through the old lands of America until one day Lenny does something that he shouldn't, and they're kind of on the run, and then they come across a farm, and they have, you know, it seems like they have like a decent interaction. Like George is like saying, you know, we're trying not to mess this up. If we're able to work real hard, we'll be able to eventually get to that place of nirvana, that happiness where we can own our own acreage, we can have our own farmland with all the pigs and goats and horses and, you know, and cows and rabbits, you know, where everything will be peaceful and happy. And Lenny, again, he's not fully there. Again, he has that intellectual disability. He eventually causes trouble. It's like unknowingly, unwillingly, he causes trouble for them, and it doesn't end well. It was just so traumatizing, the very end of the book. And I'll leave it there. It's a 5-star read. Super easy to read, and I love that kind of like simplistic writing that John Steinbeck has. Like, I think it'll just stay with you. You'll remember this book for years to come. My brother and my sister, they both was like, oh yeah. When I mentioned it to them, they're like, yeah, they just know it. It's like, so I guess this is something that has been studied in different, you know, schools and different grades and whatnot, but I didn't read this when I was in school, so, you know, to each, I suppose. Oh yeah, Fireside Vanilla. Oh, it's so nice. It's so nice. Celestial Teas. I don't put any honey or anything like that in my teas, by the way. Celestial Tea is just, it always hits. It always hits. The flavor is like super strong. Super strong. Oh. I was hoping this video wouldn't go for that long, but I mean, I don't know how else people do it for 30 books. I just, you know, I don't get it. Okay, and then I read back to back some Emily Henry books. People We Meet on Vacation. That was my first time reading it. 3.75, good old time, classic Emily Henry. I was trying to read her back catalog of books, and that was one of her earlier works, and I thought it was really fun. She always does the thing pretty well. I think this one was more romance heavy, and it was a little bit more romance heavy where, oh yeah, let me tell you what it's about. I always do this. So these not unlikely, it's kind of like friends to lovers kind of thing, where these two people have known each other for quite some time and everybody can see that they basically belong together except for them, and they kind of go on a vacation together. One of them is like a travel writer, which is such a cool job, really, really cool. And the other one is like a small town kind of like teacher for high school, I think, and whatnot. And yeah, they just fit. They really do just fit, and there's a satisfactory ending, and that's that. Classic Emily Henry, dripping with the feels of summer and water and sunshine and just the breeze. And she talks about food and, you know, just the interactions with people, not too spicy heavy or anything like that. And then I reread Book Lovers because the first time I ever read it, it was like, well, I don't care for this book. I was like, what is this? This is so annoying. I think what was annoying to me was the girl, the main character's sister. Her name was Libby. I couldn't get the fact over that her name was Libby, and then how annoying she came across to me. But yeah, I reread Book Lovers and I really enjoyed it. I would give that one a 4 stars. Basically, this, again, kind of has a little bit of a literary feel to it. This wannabe editor, burgeoning, hoping to be an editor. That's the person's dream job. I think that's a publisher. I forget what it was. Her name is Nora. Charlie Lostra. Every time I think of Charlie Lostra, I see a black trench coat for some reason. Anyway, yeah, this girl, Nora, she takes this vacation with her sister, Libby, to kind of get inspiration, and she takes her sister to go to this place called Sunshine Falls just for like a little bit of a reprieve. Libby, her sister, kind of begs her to go along with her, and she's like, okay, fine. And of course, Charlie Lastra, her arch enemy, is there, and they can't avoid each other, and you know, it's a fun like summer book with rivals and, you know, enemies to lovers kind of thing. And yeah, just fun Emily Henry banter and whatnot. It was just a good time. And then First Time Caller, which is a more recent read, so I should be able to give you guys a little bit more of a concise thought about it. Not much to say because I did just do a vlog about it. Check it out. So Aiden Valentine and Lucy Stone, they spend basically the duration of this book together in a radio phone booth. Lucy's daughter calls up this radio station. like you could tell we are really getting away from those days, but a radio station, and she's like, you know, I need some advice for my mom. She's single and I think she's great, and you know, I really want her to meet somebody. And then this guy named Aiden, he's a little bit disillusioned with love, and he's like, okay, great, like, cool, let me talk to you, let's continue this conversation. And then eventually Lucy gets on the phone and talks to Aiden, and then they kind of agree to meet up and to see if maybe talking publicly, kind of having like a public therapy confession, you know, a moment here on the airwaves could help her find somebody to love, real, true love. And of course, it's Sleepless in Seattle inspired, and you know, Aiden and Lucy obviously are gonna get together. They're the ones who are spending they're the ones who are spending the most time together, duh. So you know, that's gonna happen. Yeah, they kind of fall in love, and there's always little problems here and there, and they're extra characters, and it was just a fine time. I believe I rated this one 3.5 stars. Yeah, it was just a simple little romance. And then right after that one, I read Out of the Woods, actually in the same vlog. This is about a couple who's fallen out of love, in a sense. They're having a little bit of strife in their marriage. They've been together for about 17 years. They've known each other since they were about 14 years old. And they go to this kind of like love hiking boot camp type of thing called Reignite, where they meet up with other couples and they talk through their different problems, and whether or not they get back together is to be seen. So you gotta read it and then, you know, give it off to somebody else. But yeah, I thought it was just okay. People really love her other book, Out on a Limb. This one, I rated it like 2.75 stars. I just wasn't too connected with these characters and whatnot. I just thought it was just okay. Eventually, guys, I will give this away to one of you guys here on YouTube. So look out for a video like that sometime in 2025, but not anytime soon, okay? I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. But yeah, again, just super quick thing. I just wanted to kind of breeze through those. Oh man, and I read, this is like a super quick, like 1 hour kind of read, How Much Land Does a Man Need by Leo Tolstoy. Oh yeah, 4 stars for me. So basically this like peasant, poor man, he had always like dreamed of getting vast swaths of land. Eventually the devil comes in to tempt him with all of the excess, right? And this woman who, you know, was in the neighborhood, she sold off little chunks of her land, and the story was that, you know, people would be fined if they were trailing their horses or if they left trash, or I don't know if that's the way to say it, but if they ever like came across, you know, this person's land, then the people would eventually be like fined, and they were getting very frustrated at that, including the impoverished guy who wants to gain like vast swaths of land. Okay, eventually the situation is reversed and flipped on him, where people start doing that to him. When he gets a little bit of land, he's like, oh, you know, unfortunately I have to, you know, pretty much find these people. And he gets so frustrated at how people have been abusing his land, whether it be from poaching his fruit trees, or, you know, running trails through his property, or whatever it might be, that he's like, you know, I want to go find another piece of land. I want something bigger. You know? And he just, it's so like parable, fabled style. He's like, he just wants bigger and more and more and more in excess. So in my humble opinion, for this particular one, because I did kind of put a couple months ago, I was like, oh, you can get as much land as you possibly could want, you know, if you're, you know, free and clear to own it, and you're able to take care of the land and be respectful to the land, etc., then you can have as much land as you possibly could want.
You out of your mind? Get back. Get back before that thing eats somebody.
It seems friendly.
Well, it's not.
We won't get any closer.
You see that fence? That's mine. That fence down there, that's mine too. Everything this side of that mountain, all the way over to here, mine too. You're trespassing. Trespassing.
这位先生说，那个铁丝网是我们现在是违法的。
违法？这里都是他的。
They don't believe you.
What?
就算这里是他又怎么样？大家分享可以吗？了不起吗？
What's he saying?
Says that it's wrong for one man to own all this. He says you should share it with all the people.
Yeah. This is America. We don't share land here.
For this particular guy, you can tell though that he is just simply greedy, okay? He's simply greedy. His end is very, very interesting. It's giving, if you guys have ever seen a moment in Harry Potter, you know those moments where they like tell the story of like the Deathly Hallows and how these brothers were, you know, out there doing something, you know what I'm talking about, with the wand and then this and that, and this person is like hiding from the invisible cloak. It's like, that's what it's giving. At the very end of this particular story, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'm so sorry, but it is culminated into like this amount of land that this man is like wanting, that it does not end well for him. And again, the devil has something to do with it in this particular story. So I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good time. Okay, so the Red Badge of Courage, that was a fun story. So basically this like Union soldier named Henry Fleming, he's out on the battlefield of the Civil War. It is so interesting. He's asking everyone that he comes across, like, you know, what would you do when like real danger comes, you know, at your doorstep? Like, what exactly would you do? Would you stay there and be brave? Would you run away? If you saw everybody else running away, would you run away? So it's just like, it's like this inner turmoil that this particular character goes through. He sees a lot of death, of course, on the battlefield, and it just is this constant gun firing and cannonball firing sound that you could feel, as this constant feeling of like you're mucky and dirty from being out in these open fields and whatnot. And yeah, it's a fun story. You know, he does actually kind of flee. He does flee, and he's so ashamed by it that he eventually wants a red badge of courage, which is like somewhat of a wound, so that way he could feel like a little bit more redeemed. So it was a really good time, and I would give this one 4 stars. Take a look at it. Once again, another super quick afternoon read if that is something you want to do. I feel like, you know, it's a classic, so it might be boring to some, but things like this I just eat up, and I absolutely love it. I love the way that Stephen Crane wrote everything. I love how there are not too many characters for me to get too confused in it, and I just found it like super entertaining and super like gripping, and I was able to follow everybody's storyline very well. His mother, Henry Fleming, the character, his mother said, you know, you really shouldn't go. And he's just went and signed up for it anyway, and he regretted it because war is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing whatsoever. He thinks that, he's going to be lionized as like this crazy fun hero. Like, oh, here comes the king. He's back from war when it's nothing. War is not pretty. It's not funny. You're losing your comrades. You lose part of your own like self because of like how traumatizing everything is, and you just want to go home and you just wish that you never signed up. But that's what Henry is finding out little by little. The more time that he's just marching on and on onto the battlefield, he's like, this is so boring and so like this is so monotonous. We're doing the same thing over and over. When am I gonna see some real action? And action he did see, and he regretted that action. So that's the Red Badge of Courage. Finally have completed that one. I loved it. Glad to read more classics, And then the next one that I read, which I think, like, I almost don't want to recommend it because I feel like nobody would enjoy this book, honestly. Like, I feel like I like to, like, I don't want to be like that girl, like, I'm special or whatever. No. I just feel like it would be too boring for some. I feel like it would be too boring for most. So I read The Finest Hours. Let me give you the full thing. The true story of the U.S. Coast Guard's most daring sea rescue. This one is a nonfiction book about all of these different seamen.
Oh, we're seamen right now. We're what? Seamen. We're seamen. Stop saying that. Anyone could be walking. That's what we are. We're seamen.
And Coast Guards men, and how they are off to, rescue some people who have been stranded out on these crazy oil tankers. The entire time you feel like you're battered with the sea spray and like all of this language of like naval terms and things like that. So I can see how boring this could be for some people, but I literally had a headache. Actually, like a couple months ago when I was reading this, I literally had a headache, and I put the book on, on the audiobook, and I was reading it from my library version, and I was just like, the headache went away. That's just the way I am. So weird. But I was like, oh, this is just so fun. True story, and it felt very much so like those sports dramas that you might watch in school. It's like, oh, what happened to this person? And then they give you the thing at the end of the movie. It's like, oh, this person went on to be part of this naval academy, or he runs a fish shop in Tallahassee, or he got married and had this kids, or this person died at that age. You know what I mean? Like when they like catch up with like cool historical figures. So that was it. Yeah, I thought the book was a little bit confusing at certain points because I thought we were only going to be following one particular sea rescue, but we were talking about a few different ones. It did roll on a little bit for a certain amount of time, but I thought it was fine. And I would give it a 3.75 stars for that particular book. And then another book that I also think may not be everybody's cup of tea is Old School by Tobias Wolff. I did mention that this one kind of felt like School Ties. It really read like that. When I was reading it, I was like, oh my goodness, this book is so much so like School Ties. At a certain point, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, there's something in there. I was like, no freaking way. You've got to be kidding me. This is insane, right? So yeah, this particular story, it's all about great literature. We're talking about Robert Frost and Ernest Hemingway and Edna St. Vincent Millay, the John F. Kennedy type of New England old money feels. Yeah, so the story pretty much follows a group of boys who have to, there's like somewhat of a competition in a sense of a friendly competition where the best storyteller, the best writer of the class gets to have a one-on-one with a famous author. A famous author like Hemingway, for example. And eventually it is found out that somebody, kind of plagiarizes a piece of work and they get kicked out of the boarding school. And the biggest thing that was really interesting about it was whether or not the administration to the school had access to these famous writers in the first place. It was insane. It was a hard book to read too, by the way. For me, in particular, I was like, oh, this is kind of difficult. It's a little hard for me. And I just found it a little bit stuffy. But I found that it was extremely dense, meaning like this author, Tobias Wolff, put a lot in so little, in so few pages. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I did enjoy it at the end of the day. 3.75 stars. What else? Okay, just 2 more books. A Streetcar Named Desire. Wow. This one was a play by Tennessee William, and it's also a crazy famous movie that stars Marlon Brando. This one was hard, actually. As fun as it was super entertaining again. Very easy to go through. Basically what happens is that this woman named Blanche Dubois, she comes to visit her sister Stella and her husband Stanley. I think it's Stanley, right? Yeah. Stanley Kowalski, who's a Polish Jew. And apparently Blanche, you know, she used to live in this nice little house out in Louisiana, I believe. And she comes to Stella and Stanley, and she's like, oh, this little place here is not much, is it? You know, it's like almost like a judging sister with her fur coats and pearls. And Stanley is inquiring about what the heck happened to the property. I think it was like Belle Rêve, so Beautiful Dream, out in Louisiana, back home. And Blanche is a little bit dodgy. She ain't saying much. And Stella doesn't necessarily push her because she's like, you know, she's been through so much, Stanley, you know, like give her a break, this kind of thing. And Stanley's not having any of it. Eventually, Stanley and Blanche kind of butt heads to the point where Blanche loses her ever-loving mind and has to pretty much be taken to a sanatorium, and it's insane. And Stanley is not a good guy. He's not a good guy whatsoever. When I was reading the play, and you just tell something like it just went dark in the play, I was like, no way. I didn't think that Marlon Brando was playing this particular type of character. It was very shocking. No spoilers here. I'm trying to give you spoiler free unless you go to my reading vlogs. Yeah, it was sad. And I can't wait to watch the movie now, so very excited about that. And I rated this one, I believe, 4.5 stars. It was too much fun. Final book that I want to talk to you guys about is one that I've read for like 3 or 4 times. It's probably my 3rd time reading it. Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. We're following a guy with an intellectual disability, and his IQ is like super low. This lab that he's part of is doing experiments on this little mouse named Algernon to see if he could memorize certain things, if he could become smarter, complete different tasks, you know, go through the maze and, you know, remember where he came from, etc., etc. So just putting the mouse through different tests and whatnot to measure his smarts pretty much. And eventually they kind of do the same thing to this character named Charlie, and it works. So Charlie, he progresses, he becomes smarter, he becomes one of the smartest people in the room, but we were wondering whether or not the smarts will last. Right? And I love the way that Daniel Keyes, he kind of wrote it out to the point where it's like he's writing it phonetically the way that Charlie would say things. So you as the reader are reading it in the way that Charlie would actually say these grammatical errors and misspelling and having things be completely incorrect. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. You can tell this guy loves education. I'm talking about the author. He loves education. He loves psychology. He loves science and all things like that. It's just super beautiful. He loves literature. It's just a great work of fiction. So yeah, in the book, you're just seeing how people have been treating Charlie while he was not at his highest performance. And yeah, you just see the treatment of the mentally disabled, how they treat them pretty much. And you know what's really interesting is that Charlie, when he does get better, smarter, he remembers how people treat him, and he's just like realizing that, oh my god, if people have been making a fool of me for so long, you know, I just didn't know. It's like it's just been walking all over me and whatnot. And he just gets very angry and very pompous about it. He even seeks out his parents, who didn't necessarily treat him all that well. Maybe I could say his mom didn't treat him all that well. His dad was all right. Yeah, he tries to reconcile and build bridges with old relationships and things like that. You also see how he's navigating a new relationship with somebody who used to educate him at the college, at the school that he's attending and things like that. He's like forging relationships with, you know, different women. How would it be? And he feels that in the back of his head, almost like in the same room, the mentally disabled Charlie, that version of himself, is still ever so present whenever he is trying to engage with a woman or engage in different conversations with people. It's like you can just tell that he's not fully gone. Like he's still in the back of his head, that he's still looming there. It's just really creepy the way that it's written. So yeah, it's a pretty uplifting, warm story. The ending is quite memorable, and I highly suggest you guys read that one too. That one's easily 5 stars. I love that story. And whenever I find myself reading stories like this will be my 3rd time. Something like, you know, Lord of the Flies, which is probably my 4th read. I will definitely be reading it once again in the next like 5 years or so. So whenever I've like read something multiple times, I know that I'll just keep reading it over and over again, because it's such a classic. It's so good, and you know, it's just one of my faves. So yeah, I'm sure I'll be able to get something out of it once again. So yeah, that is pretty much my wrap up. I am terribly sorry if it went on for too long. I'm gonna try to cut it as best as I possibly can and see if I can get that out to you guys this week. And hopefully I can get that Q&A out for you guys as well this week. Very excited about that. Yeah, I wanna thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, or if you have any book recommendations for me, or any questions for the Q&A. I would highly appreciate that. And yeah, I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye.